Hello and welcome to Study History with Mr. P. In this video I'm going to be looking at law enforcement and punishment in the early modern period, so from 1500 to 1700. This ties in as well with my previous video which looks at crime and changing definitions of crime in this period too, so it's worth looking at these two videos together. So first up, law enforcement in the period 1500 to 1700. It's worth noting that law enforcement followed broadly the same patterns as in the Middle Ages. However, population growth meant that crimes became more common in towns and in cities. As a result of this, there were more opportunities for crime, and more people turned to crime because they had no way to support themselves. This aside, though, law enforcement was still left to local initiative in many respects. So night watchmen, these patrolled the local area from about 10 p.m. to dawn each night. They carried a lamp. They were unpaid volunteers and rang a bell at night to warn people to go home or risk being viewed as a possible criminal. On top of this, there were town constables. Now, these were paid and appointed by local people of good standing within the community. They were expected to stop suspected criminals and to turn in serious criminals to the courts. They also had the power to arrest suspects. Now, something completely new during this period as well was the professional thief takers. These people were paid a reward for catching a criminal and delivering them to the law. However, this was open to corruption, and in fact some criminals operated as thief takers and informed on rival gangs. Now, punishment during this period. So the emphasis during the period 1500 to 1700 was still on deterrence and retribution, but new punishments emerged too. And it's in this time period that we see early prisons. These early prisons were not considered a punishment, but were more a holding area for people as they waited for their trial or to be punished. But then in 1556, the first of a new type of prison was built, called a Bridewell prison. This was used to punish poor people who had broken the law. All inmates did hard labour, and other similar prisons were then built on the back of this. Now, capital punishment continued during this period and the Bloody Code emerged. So the Bloody Code is a name given to the harsh attitude to law-making in this period. And this harsh attitude to law-making came about, and to punishment came about, because there was a rise in the number of capital crimes. So this is crimes that were punishable by death. The focus became on deterrent rather than on preventing crime. And as a result, there was an increased use of execution for petty crimes. That said, there was another completely new method of punishment, which was transportation, which first came to be to North America and later on was to Australia too. So during the period or the reign of James I, transportation to colonies in North America began. It was a new punishment. It wasn't as harsh as execution. Prisoners were taken in chains on a ship to the east coast of North America and then had to serve 7 or 14 years doing tough manual labour before being freed. But when they were freed, they had no money and could often never return home. However, this punishment was favoured by the authorities because it was seen as an effective deterrent. Also because England didn't have an effective prison system at this time, so it helped England to establish so as an alternative to a punishment that didn't involve execution, but also got around the fact that England didn't have an effective prison system. But also it helped England to establish their colonies because it allowed for people to go over and live in those areas or work in those areas. And it did also introduce, perhaps for the first time, the idea of rehabilitation of an offender. So those are some of the main areas of punishment in this time, and along with the aspects of law enforcement too.